Hello everyone and welcome to RadioCSIRT English Edition, your daily appointment with cybersecurity news. I'm Mark Frederick Gomez, your French cybersecurity voice for today's threat landscape. I hope you're doing well. Today is Tuesday, December 16th, 2025, episode 52. Recording from Paris. On today's threat landscape, critical QNAP flaws expose authentication bypass and denial of service risks across QTS and QuTS hero systems. BPF door resurfaces with a stealth controller enabling reverse shells and lateral movement via kernel-level BPF abuse. CISA confirms active exploitation with 2 new additions to the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. A silent WhatsApp takeover scam abuses legitimate device pairing for persistent account access. Major financial data breaches at Prosper and 700 credit impact nearly 20 million individuals. The Record Media explain. 2 separate incidents highlight large-scale exposure of sensitive data across the U.S. financial ecosystem. At Prosper Marketplace, forensic analysis confirmed unauthorized system access between June and August 2025, with detection occurring on September 1st. Threat actors exfiltrated a broad range of high-value personal data, including full identities, social security numbers, national IDs, banking details, loan application data, official documents, and payment card information. No evidence indicates direct access to customer accounts or fund movement, suggesting a data-centric intrusion focused on large-scale harvesting rather than immediate financial fraud. The confirmed impact reaches 13.1 million individuals, with significant geographic concentration across multiple U.S. states. No threat group has claimed responsibility so far. A second breach affects 700 Credit, a service provider embedded in automotive dealership financial workflows. The intrusion, identified on October 25th, enabled attackers to copy personal data, including names, dates of birth, addresses, and social security numbers of more than 5.8 million individuals. Observed activity points to direct data exfiltration from internal systems, with no indication of encryption or system disruption. Both incidents align with a sustained pattern of attacks against financial institutions and their third-party service providers. Operational impact centers on elevated risks of identity fraud, targeted social engineering, and downstream abuse of exposed datasets, reinforcing the strategic value of financial and identity data for threat actors operating within an increasingly pressured financial sector. Avast Editor explained an active abuse campaign against WhatsApp leverages the platform's native device linking mechanism without requiring password theft, SIM swapping, or any technical compromise of the service. The initial access vector relies on trust-based interaction, using short messages sent from already compromised WhatsApp accounts, commonly framed as a casual notification about a discovered photo. The embedded link leads to a fraudulent page visually mimicking Facebook, whose actual purpose is to proxy WhatsApp's legitimate device pairing workflow. Victims are prompted to submit their phone number, triggering WhatsApp to deliver a valid numeric pairing code. That code is then reused by the attacker to silently link a remote browser session to the victim's account. From WhatsApp's perspective, the action is authorized, as the pairing flow follows expected authentication paths. Once the device is linked, the attacker gains near-complete WhatsApp web-level access, including synchronized messages, media, voice notes, and the ability to send messages in real time, while the victim's primary device continues to operate normally. Persistence is achieved through the indefinite validity of linked devices until manually revoked. Operational impact includes covert conversation monitoring, contextual impersonation, and rapid lateral propagation across trusted contact networks and group chats. Mitigation relies on systematic review of linked devices, enforcement of 2-step verification, and heightened detection of unsolicited pairing code, or QR-related requests delivered through socially engineered laws embedded in otherwise legitimate conversations. CISA has added 2 vulnerabilities to the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, confirming evidence of active exploitation in the wild. The first, CVE 2025-14611, affects GladNet CenterStack and Triofox and involves hard-coded cryptographic secrets. This weakness allows threat actors to leverage embedded keys to bypass security controls, enabling unauthorized access to exposed services and synchronized data. The attack vector is particularly critical in file sharing and remote access deployments, where these products are commonly used. The second vulnerability, CVE 2025-43529, impacts multiple Apple products through a WebKit use after free condition. This memory corruption flaw can be triggered via malicious web content, potentially leading to arbitrary code execution within the browser or any application embedding WebKit. Active exploitation suggests its use within client-side attack chains, supporting initial access or targeted exploitation scenarios. These additions fall under Binding Operational Directive 22-01, which mandates federal civilian executive branch agencies to remediate listed KEV vulnerabilities within defined timelines. While the directive applies specifically to federal entities, the operational risk extends broadly, as these flaws represent validated vectors for initial compromise, lateral movement, and persistence. Effective mitigation requires immediate vendor patch deployment, removal or isolation of unnecessary vulnerable services, and strict prioritization of the CVES within enterprise vulnerability management and threat exposure reduction workflows. Persistent cyber espionage activity involving BPFDoor, detected as backdoor.linux.bpfdoor, reveals the operational use of a previously unseen controller component. BPFDoor leverages Berkeley packet filter capabilities to achieve kernel-level persistence and remain invisible to conventional network detection mechanisms. The backdoor does not bind to listening ports and is triggered exclusively by network packets containing attacker-defined magic sequences, which bypass firewall controls and directly reach the BPF engine. Recent analysis shows that the controller enables encrypted reverse shells, direct shell access, and remote command execution over TCP, UDP, and ICMP channels. Authentication relies on hard-coded passwords, hashed using MD5 with a fixed salt, and validated by the implant at runtime. Observed campaigns target Linux servers across telecommunications, financial services, and retail sectors, with activity recorded in South Korea, Hong Kong, Myanmar, Malaysia, and Egypt. Identified TTPs include stealth persistence, defensive evasion, suppression of shell and MySQL command histories, and lateral movement facilitated through temporary Iptable's redirection rules. The tooling demonstrates flexibility in magic byte configuration and protocol selection, indicating operator preparedness against detection tuning. Based on tooling uniqueness, targeting patterns, and technical overlap, the campaign is attributed with medium confidence to the red-mentioned APT group, tracked as Earth Blue Crow, highlighting advanced kernel-level tradecraft designed for long-term covert network control. CVE 2025-62848 affects multiple versions of QNAP, QTS, and QUTS hero operating systems and is caused by a null pointer dereference condition mapped to CWE 476 with CVSS 4.0 with a high base score of 8.1. The vulnerability is remotely exploitable without authentication or user interaction. Successful exploitation allows remote attacker to trigger a denial of service condition, resulting in system crashes or severe service instability. Impact assessments indicate high severity across confidentiality, integrity, and availability, highlighting a significant operational risk for exposed QNAP deployments, particularly those reachable from untrusted networks. The attack scenario involves specially crafted network requests that trigger improper pointer handling within vulnerable system components, leading to process termination or system disruption. No privilege escalation is required, and exploitation does not rely on complex preconditions, making the attack straightforward and repeatable. Effective mitigation strictly depends on applying the vendor-provided updates and restarting affected systems to ensure patched components are active. Unpatched systems remain exposed to remote, low-effort denial of service attacks with potential for sustained operational disruption. The second vulnerability about QNAP is the CVE 2025-59385 affects multiple versions of QNAP, QTS, and QUTS hero operating systems and represents an authentication bypass by spoofing vulnerability, mapped to CWE 290. It is remotely exploitable without privileges or user interaction, as reflected in the CVSS 4.0 with a high base score of 8.1. Successful exploitation allows a remote attacker to access resources that should normally be protected by authentication controls, directly exposing hosted services and data. The attack scenario relies on spoofing trusted identifiers or session-related mechanisms, allowing authentication checks to be bypassed entirely. Associated attack patterns include exploitation of client-side trust, session credential falsification or replay, signature spoofing, and adversary-in-the-middle techniques. Operational impact is significant, with potential compromise of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, enabling persistent, unauthorized access, data exposure, and follow-on actions against affected services. QNAP has addressed this issue in QTS, version 5.2.7.3.297 build 20251024, and later, as well as QTS Hero H 5.2.7.3297 and H 5.3.1.3292 build 20251024 and later. Effective mitigation depends solely on upgrading to the patched versions and restarting systems to enforce corrected authentication logic. Any unpatched network-exposed system remains vulnerable to low-effort, remote authentication bypass with high-impact consequences. And that's it. This episode ends. I hope it will provide you with clear and useful information. Until then, we don't think, we patch. If you are a new listener, feel free to subscribe to the RadioCSIRT podcast. We are available in both English and French on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, Deezer, and Spotify. All open source intelligence links used in this episode are available on RadioCSIRT.com. See you tomorrow for a new episode. Take care. Goodbye from France.